Hello fellow potatoes! So I'm finally back from my quick trip to Singapore. Today I'm going to start coming back to the channel and I'll start off with this bell building deck profile. So if you watch my few previous video, I said that some of my pre-recorded videos are gone right. One of them is this bell building top, the hyper potato about this bell building. And also a quick shout out to my friends and new friends I met in Singapore. Yongjun, thank you for selling me the Ancient World flag. And also, I played against Pei Chai. Your Link Dragon Order was very great, very strong. And I've also fought against Chetian with his Gut Punks. And also I met Harish, Chetian's friend. I hope next time we can play a game too, Harish. And now without further ado, I'm going to start my bell building deck profile. So my first choice, the Buddy, is this Martian UFO Transformation Taokichi Omega. The skill is call cost pay 1 gauge. This card on the field can be destroyed by opponent's card effect. Then you can activate if you are right on a bell building. This card is also a bell building. Drop the top 3 cards of your deck. Put up to 1 size 3 or greater monster and up to 1 spell from among them into your hand. May only use this ability once per turn. Double attack and right. Pay 1 gauge. So if you write this card, you can activate its skill directly and mill the top 3 cards of your deck. Add 1 size 3 and 1 spell. Any size 3, any spell. You can even take a generic spell, or if you run Cosmo Man in the deck, you can even take Cosmo Man with Taokichi, and that's why this card is really great. Okay, even though it says that the ability can only be used once per turn, if you ride it, then you call another Taokichi on your field, you can also use the Taokichi skill, the other Taokichi skill, because it's considered a new card, a new ability. Okay? And this Taokichi, of course, I run 4 copies. Okay. I put that in there. 4 copies of Taokichi. And then let's move on to the buildings. So, basically bell buildings are based on real life buildings in Japan. And not only in Japan, also in the anime series. Okay, we'll start off with the strongest one. I'm going to talk about the spells first, okay? So the set spells are the buildings, which then can transform into a robot. So first, the Super T Sky Tower. It's a set spell. At the start of your turn, you may drop 3 cards of your deck. The top 3 cards of your deck. If you do, put up to 1 bell building spell from among them into your hand. Counteract, pay 1 gauge. If you do, call a Super T Titan Sky Tree from your hand or drop zone without paying its call cost. Then put this card into its soul. Okay, the first skill is already very good because you can mill cards from the top of your deck and fill your drop zone with other bell buildings you can call on later. And also, the call skill Super T Titan Sky Tree is just really good. Okay, I'm putting the spells over there first, and here's the robot Super T Titan Sky Tree. Size 3 monster, 12 for 5,000, a massive critical of 4. Look at that. Call cost pay 2 gauge. When this card enters the field, put up to 1 bell building spell other than Super T Sky Tower, his set spell, from your drop zone into your hand. Then if it enters the field by a bell building effect, put the top 2 cards of your deck into your gauge. This card's attack can be nullified if it's attacking alone. Penetrate and Soul Guard. I don't know why Bushiroad made this kind of card. This card alone is just super good. First, it can salvage a spell from your drop zone. Second, it charges 2 cards from top of your deck to your gauge. Then, its attack can be nullified if it's attacking alone. It has a critical of 4 and penetrate. I don't know why Bushiroad made this kind of card. Even the set spell is just really good. Mill the top 3 cards from the deck, add any bell building spell. Okay, so the idea of the deck is you set the spells, right? You set the spells and then you pay 1 gauge. Then you call this Sky Tree from your drop zone or from your hand on top of this spell, so it has Soul Guard. Like that. Slam 4. And the call skill from the building is a counter seal, so you can use it during your bell phase. Okay, the Sky 3 is based on a real building in Japan called the Tokyo Sky 3. Yeah, it's a real building there, and it's really fun to see like they made a Sky 3 that can transform into a very strong robot. Okay, moving on, the next robot, Friendship Combi Iborg, size 3, 736. Pay 2 gauge. When this card enters the field or right, you gain 2 life. Then if it entered the field or right by another bell building effect, you gain 3 life. If you are right on this card, the size of all bell building monsters on your field are reduced by 3. Soul Guard, right, pay 2 gauge. Yes, you guessed it, buddies. This card here also has a spell, which is the Buddy Academy Hostel, or if you watch the anime, you might know this as the Aibo Academy. This is Aibo Academy, and it can transform into this super strong robot. So if you use Takokichi, right? You use Takokichi's skill first, then you double attack, and during your bell phase, you wanna change into this Iborg, and then gain 5 life. And you can spam your field with the other bell buildings because all cards' size are reduced by 3. That's Iborg. Okay, I forgot to mention like this deck is currently the top tier deck in the English meta and also in the Japanese meta too. Oh yeah, Youngjun, congrats on winning the Singapore BWC. He also uses this bell building deck because this deck is just really good. It's really like flexible. The only missing thing from this deck is it's kind of lacking consistency, I guess. The next card we're gonna talk about is the Simulacon G Gold Path and S Silver Path, which is basically the Kinkakuji and Ginkakuji in Japan, in Kyoto. So also size 3, 727. Cost pay 2 gauge. When this card enters the field, destroy a monster on your opponent's field. Then if it entered the field by a bell building effect, destroy a card on your opponent's field. All bell buildings on your field can be destroyed by your opponent's card effect. Double attack Soul Guard. So why is it very good? The first one, you can destroy your opponent's monster and cards. And because of this spell's skill, it is considered a counter ability. So for example, during your turn, when your opponent declares attack, you can use this card, call the Ginkakuji, and then destroy your opponent's monster and card when he starts his battle phase. That's an example of how you use this card. And also, all battle buildings on your field can be destroyed by your opponent's card's effect. A very good skill which protects all your set spells and all your monsters on your field. Okay, I run 3 copies of the monsters and 4 copies of the building. The building skill is at the start of your turn, you can pay 1 gauge. If you do, you gain 4 life. I don't really use the building skills that much. I just use him to call the Kinkakuji robot. And I also forgot to mention the Buddy Academy skill. This card skill is at the start of your turn, you draw an extra card, which is very good. That's our 4th building. Moving on, some of you might be familiar with this place here, the Super T Dynamic site, which is actually the big site in Japan where they hold, I think like the Comic Cat. Yeah, I think they held it in this big site here. And also the Buddy Festa, the Vanguard and Buddy Fest, I think they also Daibangasai and Daibadisai, I think they also run it in this place. The robot first, size 3, 836. Call cost also pay 2 gauge. When this card enters the field, you draw a card. Then if it enters the field by bell building effect, choose a card on your opponent's field, and the chosen card cannot stand during this turn and next turn. Even if your opponent casts a spell or whatever effect that causes the card to stand, they cannot stand. This card is good especially against like Cosmo Man. Yeah, this card is good. And also for Electro Deity, at the end of the Susanoo's first attack, you can call him and then make Susanoo cannot withstand. And the dynamic side, the skill is you charge 2 at the start of your turn. And also can call the Omen Big Bird Sai Bird. Okay, this is the last robot I'm running. MST Mac Harry Messer. Pay 2 gauge when this card enters the field for this turn. Next damage you take by attacks are reduced to 0. Then if this card enters the field by bell building effect, draw a card. And continuous skill damage you take are reduced by 1. And Soul Guard. And this is the building Ocean Mese, which is Makuhari Mese in Japan. They really have this kind of building. I think I'll put the photos of the buildings around here later. And yeah, what's good about this is actually I prefer the spell more, because at the start of your turn you can choose a bell building in your drop zone, and then you can drop a card from your hand. If you do, put the chosen card into your hand. Why is this card good? It's because choose a bell building in your drop zone and you may drop a card. If you do, put the chosen card into your hand. Whatever bell building, monsters, spells, impacts, you can salvage it using this card, and that's why it's really good. I run the monster just because sometimes you need that extra defense that reduces your opponent's damage to 0. So yeah, I run this. That's all for the monsters and the set spells. Next, I'm running 4 copies of this super awesome consistency card, Bell Building Online. Pay 1 gauge, drop up to 1 bell building monster from your deck, put up to 1 bell building spell with set into your hand and shuffle your deck. You may only cast this once per turn. Cast cost, pay 1 life. Yes, this is what makes the deck a little bit consistent, because you can drop 1 size 3 from your deck into your drop zone, and then you take any spells into your hand. And for example, if you don't have Iborg, you can drop Iborg to your drop zone and take the spell, then you can just directly play him. And yeah, you can try different sorts of combination depending on your hand. Next, I'm running 4 copies of the nullifiers. Buildo combination. Be the one. You may only cast this card during an attack on your opponent's turn, and if you have a bell building on your field. Counter nullify the attack, put the top card of your deck into your gauge, and you gain 1 life. Then if you have 3 or more bell buildings on your field, you can draw a card. 3 or more bell buildings, including the stat spells. This nullifier is just really good. And one thing, you can salvage this nullifier using the Sky Tree. Because when this card enters the field, you can take any bell building spells from your drop zone into your hand other than the Sky Tower. So, for example, during your opponent's turn, when your opponent's attack, you cast this to nullify your opponent's attack, right? And then at the end of the battle, you can use Sky Tree skill, Sky Tower skill, to call Sky Tree on your field. When Sky Tree enters the field, you can take back that nullifier from your drop zone to your hand, and then you can use it to nullify your opponent's attack again. That's why I ran 4 copies of Sky Tower and 4 copies of Sky Tree, because they're just really good. No reason not to play them for. And also a little tips, if you're playing competitively, the choice of buddy would definitely be this Sky Tree, because this card is the one which will be called very often in this deck rather than the Taokichi, because Taokichi can be searched, and sometimes in a game you just cannot get Taokichi to your hand, but you'll definitely get this Sky Tower because you have this bell building online. Okay, moving on. Next, the money card from the set. It's Superhero Time. I ran 3 copies of Superhero Time because this card is just super dope. First, the art is really dope. And also, the skill, you may only cast this card if you have an item equipped. Pay 1 life, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, put up to 1 from them into your hand, and put the rest into your gauge. You may only cast Superhero Time once per turn. This is like an extra Daryl Break, which is really good. No reason not to play this card. I think 3 is enough. 2 to 3 is a good number of cards you run. Superhero Time run in your deck, because you have to have an item equipped to play this card. So that's why if you play 4, I think that's overkill. And you can only activate it once per turn. Next, another nullifier. I have Shutan! You may only cast this card if you are being attacked. Counter nullify the attack, then you may pay 1 gauge. If you do, you gain 3 life. A very good card. Why? Because right now most of the nullifiers need some condition. For example, this build combination, you have to have bell buildings on your field, so to be able to cast this card. And if you are facing, for example, Cosmo Man and they are going first, if you only play this type of attack nullifiers, they will do a free 5 damage to you, because during their first turn you won't be able to have any bell buildings on your field, right? So you cannot nullify Cosmo Man's attack using this card. But if you have this futile, you can nullify the attack because it doesn't need any specification, any cards specific on your field before you play it. You just need to be directly attacked by your opponent and you can cast this card. That's why I run 2 copies of this. And then the next card, I only run 1 Hyper Energy, because sometimes you just need that extra push of gauge. So yeah, I run 1 copy of this, especially if you're running into gut punks. This card will come in handy. I only run 1 copies because your Sky Tree already charged 2 every time he enters the field. And yeah, if I run 3 or 4 Hyper Energies, that will be a gauge overkill. Next, I run this very obstructive card. Obstruct. This shop tournament promo. A generic card, you may only cast this card during your opponent's turn. Pay 1 life. For this and the next turn, each player cannot draw cards by their own card effect. Yes, this card is really good in the meta right now because most cards are relying so much on draw. For example, Link Dragon Order, they can draw lots and lots of cards in their turn. And also the MA team, Mobile Aerial team, they can use the sword, Weapon Link, draw a lot of cards. So Obstruct is really needed in this meta. And this deck doesn't really get obstructed by Obstruct because most of the cards are just searchers. Check the top 3 cards of your deck, and there are very seldom draw ability other than the nullifiers and the Buddy Academy. And yeah, Obstruct really doesn't hurt this deck, so run 4 copies to hurt your opponent's deck, which is why it's really good. And then the last 2 cards I will be running 2 Power of Justice Build Power Extension. This impact is just really strong. You may only cast this card during if your opponent has 6 life or less, and if you are right on a bell building. Cast cost, pay 3 gauge, deal 1 damage to your opponent for each different bell building in your drop zone. It doesn't specify any monster, spells, impacts, or whatever bell buildings. It just says different bell building. So this impact also count, this bell building online also count, this nullify also count. And that's why this card is really good. Okay, you can even pull an FTK using this impact. Okay, I'll show you how. Okay, so these are the 4 key cards you need in your first turn hand to play the FTK. So first you Buddy transform into Takokichi. You already pay 1 gauge, right? Whatever the gauge is, and then you use its skill to mill 3 cards from the top of your deck, and then take 1 size 3, 1 spell, and then you play Sky Tower. You use skill, call Sky Tree, and then you do whatever stuff you have in your hand, fill your drop zone, and then slam for 4 damage, can be nullified, and final phase. Cast this impact for 6 damage. Easy win. Easy game. So yeah, that's why this spell building is really strong in the meta right now. And also tips for you, for your sideboard, you can run this Wind Demon Impact monster for Zeta, which name is Ariel. a size 2 Wind Demon Aerial. Its skill is when this card enters the field, you can bounce a monster or an item on your opponent's field. So that will be very useful against Electro Deities because their item can be destroyed but they cannot be they can be returned to your opponent's hand. So yeah, you just bounce their Kaguda Bell and boom. And yeah, the idea of the deck is basically you set various kind of set spells in your field. Like that. And then you just fill your drop zone with the robots. And then you can spam call this, hit. Spam call this, hit. Spam right, hit. Spam call, hit. Those kind of stuff. Until your opponent's life are down to 0. Okay. The playstyle might not be really clear from just this deck profile, but I'll do another match video for this bell building deck. Be sure to stay tuned, and if you like this video, be sure to subscribe. Don't forget to give me some likes, thumbs up on my Facebook page too. So for now, Hyper Potatoes signing out.